This video contains gratuitous use of profanity and uncomfortable pauses to compensate for lack of professionalism and original thought. Viewer discretion advised.
Live from the dingy mats of the Eagle Fang Dojo, we bring you the Nerdy Manroom Show with your host, Hassel and Monster. Before we get started, we'd like to thank our special sponsor, The Zone Cards and Collectibles. You can get cool t-shirts like this Dragon Dye t-shirt I got on right here. He's got stickers and whatnot. All the proceeds go to various charities and whatnot. You can find them on the internet at The Zone collectibles@gmail.com. They're also on Facebook. They are doing a huge 2022 motto this year of unity through community. So look them up on there, and Kev will be more than happy to add you into the fold and give you a little backstory on various artists and whatnot that they help out, and t-shirts that they do, and where the proceeds go. So with that being said, turn it over to Monster. Kick off a little news.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff going on. We didn't do news last week with our show because it was our special awards episode. So some of this news may be a little bit dated, just from giving us a little bit of time to collect all that as well as go through our awards. But we wanted to make sure we shared all this stuff. And I think the first round we were going to get into was some sports news. I know, Hassel, you had a few things you wanted to bring up there.
Yeah, it's been an exciting week. For those of you that don't know, the Georgia Bulldogs won the Orange Bowl, soundly defeating the Michigan Wolverines. Ric Flair chose wrong. But now they are advancing on to the national championship game on January 10th. We got to fight the dreaded Bama Effluence. So, yeah, we got Nick Saban rematch number 2. But it's big news for the Georgia Bulldog fans, people in those community. Moving on to the NFL, the Falcons season, done. Broncos season, done. They weren't even good enough to make us believe this year, either one. But in bizarre news, Antonio Brown lost his mind on the sidelines.
That's a nice way of putting it.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, there was so many speculated things going, into it, and it was rumored that he was pissed because they were going to bench him. When the truth come out was, no, they were asking him to go back in the game. Coach asked him multiple times, hey, get back in the game, get back in the game, get back in the game. Other players try to talk to him and reel him back in, and he refused to go in the game several times. And the coach, being like most, coaches or managers, if you're dealing with people, you got an employee that refuses to do the job you're paying them to do. You get pissed off, you tell him, get the hell out of here. You know what I'm saying? He didn't fire him. He just told him, hey, get out of here. You're not going to get in the game. Get out of here. So what does he do? He throws a tantrum, throws his shoulder pads, jersey off, throws his Under Armour shirt into the crowd, does almost a streak across the field.
In the middle of a play.
Doing the Daniel Bryan like this right here, through the end zone. And the only statement that he's even put out there is now he's saying that he had a hurt ankle, which is why he was refusing to go in the game. I promise you, because I've had a high ankle sprain. You're not doing Daniel Bryan's in the end zone, getting out of there if your ankle is bothering you to that degree that you can't play. No. He was literally a few notches away from several incentives in his contract that would have been probably worth several $1 million. It's just bizarre, and if he needs mental help, it's sad that he's not seeking it.
Yeah, my take on it, because I've seen all that too, and then surprisingly today, because I saw that the coach finally come out and said, yeah, he's done, he's no longer on the team, and then today that was announced that technically he's still on the roster. The GM has to make that decision to actually fire him. The coach cannot do away with him, which we already kind of know that, but we would assume that would already be back. But the GM has not signed off on it yet, which is,
from what I understand, they're looking at a way of doing it where he can't go to another team. Which I honestly I don't see another team taking a chance on him. He's not worth his off-field drama, and even at this point, on-field drama. But I think from what I'm to understand, they're looking at a way of doing it to where he's done. He can't come back.
He doesn't need to. How many second chances this guy had? I mean,
it's his fourth team since 2019.
He's been suspended for having a fake vaccine card. He's been suspended for allegations of sexual assault. He's been suspended for something, and he may not be guilty of all these things. We really don't know. That's for someone else to decide. But if he's found guilty of all these and he's still playing because they need him for the team, it's time to cut him loose. And if he's done these things because he does, as you said, have something actually wrong with him, well then.
If he's bipolar, schizophrenic, seek some medication, seek therapy. You know, he's got access to probably the best in the world on all of these things, doctor-wise.
Yeah.
Why not use them?
Well, and you mentioned he hasn't actually brought anything out, but if you probably didn't see it, but just a couple hours ago, you know, his statement besides a sprained ankle or the hurt ankle or whatever it is that he said he's fine if they fire him. He's just going to concentrate on his new music and his rap career that he's got started.
Oh, well, I guess that's why he was attending NBA games last night instead of trying to get his life together.
Yeah, but let's be honest, a rap career from someone who played sports. Not saying it can't be done, but it's not a proven track record for that. I mean, let's look at Shaq.
Well, he had that little stint on that Masked Singer, so I'm gathering that's probably he's got aspirations far bigger than what he's going to get. All I can say is that Mike Tomlin of the Steelers deserves an award just for putting up with his ass for 9 seasons because he's the only one that has. No one else can tolerate this man.
And again, hopefully it's not something he really needs help with, but you know, if it's not, then somebody should have cut him a long time ago because it's a point of they're just empowering him to keep doing this stuff at this point.
If he doesn't need mental help and he's leaning on that card, that's a real shitty thing to do.
Yeah.
But and he hasn't come out and said that that's what it is. It's just the only thing that makes sense.
With everything else, considering what he's been handed, and let's be honest, you know, he's playing a game for a huge amount of money. That's what all sports is. You're playing a game for a large amount of money. But to do the things he's done or that he's been accused of, whether he's done them or not, if he has done any of them, why would you endanger what you're getting out of that just for that? You cannot be that entitled.
No, and not to pass judgment, but where there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, okay, if you get 1, maybe 2 allegations against you, you know, I don't get me wrong. There are people in this world that do seek and thrive upon rich people by putting bogus allegations out there.
You are going to get some allegations just because you have millions of dollars in your asset.
They extort you for money. But I mean, when it's a continued pattern where every time you turn around, there's something new. And these are just things we've heard of. There's no telling how many things, various teams are swept on the rug.
And not even allegations by other people, but I mean, one of the, and I'm not one of these people that thinks you need to show your vaccine card everywhere you go, right? But if you're going to fake one just to not get in trouble, you're already willing to cheat the system anyway. What other stuff have you probably done? How far will you go? Because that's a simple one. Either just say, I don't have it, I didn't do it, or show if you got one. I mean, again, not all this is allegations by other people, so we can't really speak on those. But it's, you know, if you're a continued pattern of behavior, there's probably something more in there.
And I won't bash him too hard on that because, for one, I don't believe in it either. However, that my job doesn't state I have to have it. Aaron Rodgers, that piece of shit, did the same thing. He flat out lied. He didn't buy a bogus card, I'll give him that, but he flat out lied, and he's the praise of the NFL right now. So that's the sort of thing where it's sad, but I would say Antonio Brown, he's done. There will be a mighty cold day in hell before I can envision watching him playing at the game of football. Some team will be extremely desperate. I'll put it that way.
Well, and I think it brings up something bigger in some of the clauses, and then I will say this, because we're going to get into some WWE news as well in a minute. Contracts with WWE are promises at best. They're not really full contracts, but I am sure with the amount of money that they put in these contracts, there's clauses where if you break the contract early or you leave early or you get fired for just cause, that you're probably going to have to not only not get any more of the money you're owed, but you're probably going to have to give some of it back.
And with his track record, I'm pretty sure that the Bucks were smart enough to place all kind of fail safes in there because
you got to think so.
It was going to happen.
And so he's going to lose whatever that guaranteed bonus was if he hit certain numbers, and then he's probably going to have to give up some of the money that he's got. But with his track record of what he's done and how he acts, I'm wondering how much of that he actually has sitting around, or is he going to be completely broke and destitute after this?
Well, all I can tell him is maybe Millie Vanilli's got a few hits in the vault they can open up for him, and he can strike them on out. Moving on, AEW moves to TBS tomorrow night.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
that is actually pretty major. Wrestling on TBS, the Superstation. Once again, that's a big deal. Rampage will stay on TNT on Friday nights, Saturday nights, whatever night of the week they shift them back and forth so much. But Wednesday nights will be a permanent home on TBS from now on. And it's kind of cool, actually. I mean, it brings us back to the old days of the old 605s.
I hope so, but again, they've still got that niche audience, and moving them around, is it going to lose some of their viewership? Because some people are just going to be like, I can't keep up with where it's at and when it's coming on.
Yeah. They haven't really pushed it's swapping it. I mean, I actually watch weekly, and I almost forgot that it was shifting channels until like earlier today, maybe, I think it was. And they got a pretty stacked card for tomorrow night. I mean, you got Daniel Bryanson is going to face Hangman Page for the world title again. I mean, so that in itself is enough to make you tune in. I think the finals of the TBS Championship with Jade Cargill and what's her name? Soho.
Soho.
Yeah, the two of them. I mean, I'm sure Dr. Britt Baker will be on there somewhere.
And again, I think they've got a good product. I just don't. I always worry about how much money they're sinking into stuff, and then they keep moving around. And again, they haven't reached that point of WWE may be a failing product, but they're still. You don't expect them to go anywhere. They've got their thing and they're set.
Well, they're kind of like Walmart. I mean, they can have shitty service and all the self-checkout lines and no employees, and you're still going because you need that, whatever it is that you're going to buy.
Right, and that makes me concerned sometimes for AEW just to see how long they're going to make it. But and it doesn't do any favors when Tony Khan gets very defensive anytime anybody says anything about it.
I don't think it's an issue of do they make it. I don't see as long as he wants to play in the sandbox, Daddy's going to back him. And that one day that Daddy's money is his money. So I don't think that'll ever be an issue. The issue will become kind of like Impact. Do they lose sponsorship of networks to the point where they're not worth watching? Or
and you say, Tony Khan's dad will keep giving him that money until he spends enough that it becomes the attention of a board of whatever else they're involved in with all their sports teams, their tire teams. They're publicly traded at some points, and that board gets involved with some of that. Just like what happened with Ted Turner, he was all about his wrestling, and then the board said, "You're losing money. We're cutting you off." Yes, it is your company, but we have a say as well as your shareholder. So you got to worry about that sometimes with them too.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's necessarily bad, but I was listening to something else earlier today where he picked an argument with Fox News where they wrote an article about how their viewership really wasn't increasing and stuff. And he's like, our ratings are higher than anything on yours. And then you go back and look, it's like in one demographic, but you're not outpacing the news, buddy. I'm sorry. Well, people watch the news. Maybe you might be saying,
if you do outdraw the news, you're not in competition with the news.
No.
Even if you say you're not in competition with the WWF, you are. You're in the same market. I mean, it would be like the Canadian Football League saying, well, we're not trying to be in competition with the NFL. Yes, you are. You're for football. I mean, you don't have opposing leagues, which is essentially what this is, and not big competition.
But he got very defensive, and he threw a lot of stats out. Like, here's all the stats. Here's this chart where we beat you in this rate, and this one, and this one. And then you look at them closer, and you actually pull up those charts. They beat them in the 18 to whatever age demographics.
Demographics, yeah.
you beat them on the kids who are sitting there playing video games and then watching wrestling, but the people in the walkers are still a lot of them too, and they're watching the news. So
rating wise, you're not defeating them, but in a demographic that doesn't watch that, yeah, you're beating them. I mean,
yes. Yeah, it was just kind of a why pick that fight, and he picked another fight, with someone leaving the company, and they had disparaging things to say, and he went out of his way to make a comment back. And it's like, why would you even take the time to do that? Just let them go and be happy with what they're doing. If they want to complain, let them complain and move on.
You know how many people bash Vince every time he lets them go, and they just wish him the best with their future endeavors?
Yeah, because he doesn't have the time and energy to waste on it.
No,
he's busy.
If Tony Khan isn't smart, he can become a Donald Trump in that aspect, because that's literally what bit that man the last so many times was getting on Twitter.
Yeah,
and I'm all for social media. I mean, we are on social media at Nerdy MR Show, but if you're not going to be smart about how you approach things, if you're going to start getting in those pissing contests, get off there.
Yeah,
just get off. And he's done argued with her fiance or husband. I think he may be her husband. Cedric Entertainment.
He's her husband. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cedric Alexander.
Yeah, that cat. Another guy that's really not very talented, just like her. I mean, her talent run out. It spoke for itself. You didn't have to justify it.
Right.
You let her go because
just
we've done as much as we can do with you. Go somewhere else, learn a new hold, and we'll revisit you in a couple of years, and maybe we can do something. But instead, he felt the need to go, well, I'm brown, so, I mean, I'm not being racist. And then he's got employees in his own company talking trash. Leo Rush, he's one I would not have wasted time on to begin with, but he goes on there and starts trying to champion her, or I guess he said he didn't take a side, but he thought what Tony Khan said was inappropriate.
Yeah, when you first read his tweets, it sounded like he was bashing the company. Then he came back and said, look, he said, I wasn't trying to bash and say that the company's not diverse. I was trying to bash the fact that we responded back to it. Why did we even take the time? And I got to give him, if that's really what he was trying to say, then I got to agree with him. Why would you take the time?
That's called getting called to the principal's office and you get your ass chewed, and you go back and put a public statement out there to kind of rebut what you put out there to begin with.
Yeah.
That's what that really was. But I don't blame him. I mean, I would have probably told him really quick, hey, look, you work for me. You won't be publicly disparaging this company unless you want to be back on the indie scene where we found you.
Well, and that's a hard argument to make with him, though, right? Because didn't he retire and say, I'm done? I'm going to move on to other things, and then they went and sought him out and brought him back?
Twice. They signed him. He was the big surprise. And what it was, what's their ladder match? It's like their Money in the Bank with the Casino Battle Royal or Casino Royale or whatever.
Yeah.
With All In. So they got the big chip up there. He was the big surprise for that right there. And then literally, you had all this big push, and they showed him the next week. And then a week later, I'm retiring. It lasted all of a month, and he come back.
Yeah. And he's a controversial one. He starts a lot of arguments with people, but
he keeps shit stirred up, yeah.
But we've harped on them enough a little bit. How about we move to the unless you had some other news, move to the WWE Day One, and I don't want to review the entire thing because, to be honest, it was kind of unmemorable at best. But
it got a DS award too.
A couple of good takeaways, or a couple of important takeaways. I shouldn't say they're good. There are a couple of important takeaways. First one being Drew McIntyre. They did the angle where he got attacked backstage during the show, and then they said he was injured, and I thought, well, maybe it was just part of the angle. But apparently the angle was done because he really has been injured and been carrying Raw for months with a messed up neck and been trying to get to surgery and all. So apparently now he's actually going to get the time off to do that since he's moved to SmackDown. And let's be honest, SmackDown doesn't need anybody other than Reigns to carry the show at this point. So, no. And I'm not disparaging Drew because I actually think he did as best a job as he could to carry Raw and that show for an entire year. But he's out now with injuries. And then the other big takeaway was major change in storylines with Brock Lesnar now having the WWE belt on Raw and being on Raw versus he was on SmackDown feuding with Reigns, and they were supposed to be the big WrestleMania thing, big Royal Rumble thing, and
well, I think they're still building to the two of them at Mania. I very rarely watch Raw anymore, but I did tune in last night just to see where they're going with this. And the show opens, Paul Heyman's in the ring, and he goes straight into his advocate role.
Which, by the way, he had the best lines like, you fired me for 1 week and now you got COVID.
He took me the Rona. He didn't say COVID, he said you got the Rona. I was like, way to go, Paul.
What he tells him, you can beat the Rona, but karma's a real bitch.
Yeah, it's like
that was awesome.
Yeah, he must be doing. Roman must be doing really well for them to even joke about that. But
considering his medical history, yeah. He still, I mean, even though he's got it in remission, you're never going to get rid of leukemia and stuff. So I mean, he's at risk with it.
Yeah. So Brock's back, and he's back with Paul Heyman. I'm assuming their faces still, because Bobby Lashley won the match of the night to become the new #1 contender to face Brock at the Royal Rumble. But I mean, they're already saying basically it's going to be Reigns Brock at Mania and a title unification match.
Which I can see, considering they're losing all the talent. But did you also see that there was an article came out today where they were interviewing Big E after the loss at day one, and he's like, and they got off into the realm of kayfabe, right? And said, hey, so are you turning heel at some point? And he's like, well, that's been pitched to me already since the loss, a couple of days ago. That's been pitched to me, but it doesn't make sense right now for me to turn heel because of all the charity work and stuff he does. So it's not going to happen anytime soon.
I mean, I'm not the biggest B fan. I think you talk about the AEW, the niche. He has a niche.
Yeah. All the New Day does.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. He's no different than Kofi. Kofi's great for a high spot here or there. I didn't think Kofi was a worthy world champion. Xavier is not a king of the ring. I'm sorry. They make a great trio. They're a hell of a tag team. I mean, whether I like their comedic BS or not, you can't knock what they've done, what they've accomplished. They're a part of some really great matches. And unfortunately, we'll go down as one of the greatest tag teams of all time because of the fact that they're pretty much the Ric Flair of tag team wrestling right now. They've got, 11, 12?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just way up there. It's astronomical. And don't get me wrong, the Dudleys did too, but they've done them in various organizations. They done all these, with the exception of Harlem Heat. I think Harlem Heat is the only other tag team to have that many tag team title reigns in one company, because I think Booker T and Stevie Ray had like 11.
Yeah, it's something like that.
It was pretty like, wow, you didn't realize it, because that point got brought up one time, was like, well, Ric Flair is the greatest of all time because he has 16 world title reigns. He said, but what makes me any less of being great when I got 11 world tag team title reigns in WCW? And I was like, oh shit,
Yeah.
But I don't know. It was a feel good moment to see someone who's been with the company as long as he has get that, but
it was a short term transition.
Yes.
This is not going to be long term story.
What they should have done is built a monster heel to just squash him and establish themselves. I mean, you already have Bobby Lashley. There's no way in hell I'd have dropped Bobby Lashley for Big E. I'm sorry. Bobby Lashley's probably the most credible champion they've had other than Roman Reigns. And it's like, literally, he loses to Big E. The next thing there, Roman's kicking his ass. I mean, he's losing matches left and right. But we'll see where they go with it. I mean, I don't think it's not enough to make me start tuning in to Raw every week. It's like, I literally watched the segment with Brock, and I knew at that point, okay, Brock, the money he makes, he's not going back out there tonight. He's not wrestling tonight. All that best they're going to have is a match to determine something later. I can look on Instagram later, find out who won, and I did.
Yeah, and again, that it was a surprise that they moved him over and took the belt. I get why they couldn't have the match between him and Roman. Roman's out, with the Rona, but it was an odd storyline. I mean, I figured if nothing else, they could let Brock lose that match because it's a fatal 5-way, and he wouldn't lose any face because somebody else, Seth could have been pinned in the ring by Bobby Lashley or Big E or whoever, and Brock could have just been out doing, attacking Kevin Owens or something. And, oh shit, I lost.
Well, I mean, they had no choice. They always say that when a card is subject to change. If you lose an attraction, you got to present something better than the attraction you lost. So I'm assuming that's what they felt was the most logical. It's just Brock's, there. You scheduled to wrestle. I mean, were you going to put him in there with Sami Zayn? I mean, so I get it. And then their hands were tied to the point where they had to put Paul back with him because, I mean, how else did he get all this leverage? How does he do this? But honestly, that makes no sense from any standpoint of storytelling. Okay, Paul's been with Roman for a year now, or 400 and some odd days. And all of a sudden, because of one punch, he's back with, if I was Brock, I'm like, I don't want your damn scraps. Well, that would have been the most interesting thing to me last night. During that segment, he scooped Paul's ass up, slung him around, dropped him, and then said, I don't want you either, and continued what has actually not been a bad little face turn for Brock. I mean, the way he's presenting himself, like being a little over the top, comedic here or there, like he's having a good time and then kicking ass. That's probably been the most entertaining I've seen Brock Lesnar since his run in the early 2000s.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to see where they go. I mean, they've got some ability to do a couple of different things with storylines now, but since we're running a little bit longer on going through some of that, we'll move ahead to toy news. But since we're on the subject of WWE, there was a lot of Mattel WWE news, a lot of Mattel news, period, over the holiday week that we didn't go over yet. So we figured we could run through some of those. For Mattel WWE, they revealed several lines in December that are already up for pre-order now, coming out in February. But we can run through some of these. We've got the Elite Series 93 with Seth Rollins, Cesaro, Ricky Steamboat in both white tights and a yellow tights chase figure, T-Bar and Raquel.
That's literally
Ricky
the only
Steamboat's
thing.
awesome.
That's all you had to touch over was Ricky the Dragon, whether the white or the chase. Anybody watching wants to send your boy one or give a heads up as to where one is, you let me know. The rest of those, nothing special. I mean,
yeah. And I don't really collect any wrestling figures, but I will say that Ricky Steamboat one did look nice.
I was surprised to see him with the World Television Championship because that's a belt that doesn't get the credit it deserves.
Yeah.
That was pretty neat.
They hardly ever even mentioned that existed at this point. The next line they had was the Basics line. This is Series 128. It had a new Edge, Big E, MVP, Sasha Banks, and Raul Mendoza with a face paint variant. And
who is that?
I was going to say the same thing. I don't even know who that is. I got to be honest. I don't know that.
I seen that in our notes, and I was like, I'm almost ashamed as a wrestling fan that I don't know who the hell this is. He has an action figure, and I don't, but I don't know who the hell he is.
Well, I seen the picture of the figure, and he has a mask, but he has a face paint. One variant with face paint, one without. I'm assuming he's someone on NXT because that's who he looks like. Somebody who would be on NXT, but I have no idea. But since we don't know him, we can move to the battle packs they've got coming out. These are the two packs. You've got a Street Profits pack, a Goldberg versus Drew McIntyre, and an Undertaker versus Bret Hart. Now, I actually really like the fact that with these packs that they're doing for these, they actually come with a stand that they can stand on with pegs in it, or they have a kind of a flight stand for them to be in a jumping action pose. Those are
and the stand looks like the championship title they battled for. That was actually those figures always are basics and they look kind of but the fact that they went with that version of Undertaker and Bret Hart from the SummerSlam match where Bret gets a title or Shawn's a special referee and it's on the WWF championship, the classic WWF championship stand. That's pretty cool. And the little flight stand, like you saying, to make them do moves and whatnot.
Dynamic posing and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And actually, it's kind of interesting because you brought up the Undertaker being in that, but he's actually in the next 3 waves as I'm sitting here looking at our notes. And so apparently he's getting a lot of love this year after that retirement. But the next wave is the 2022 Top Picks Elite Series, and it's got Rey Mysterio, Undertaker, and The Rock in it. And then we've got 2022 Top Picks Basic Series, which has a Roman Reigns and a different version of Undertaker. I want to say one of them is Undertaker from the AJ Styles match. He's got the shaved head and the shovel.
Top Picks Elite. Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember which one was which, but I think the other one is just more of a classic look, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got the Undertaker's also in the next wave, the Bend and Bash, which is your more kid-friendly line. Kofi Kingston, Undertaker, Drew McIntyre, and Bobby Lashley in this line. These are more animated looking. I think they have some action features. They really remind me a lot of the old, what was it, LJN? Wrestlers with the arm straight up and down to body slam you.
Yeah, or what is their first Jax figures that had the bone crunching action. Very limited possibility.
And all of those are up right now for pre-order at most of your online retailers. Most of them have a release date of February. The next two are actually store exclusives. And I think one of these is already up for pre-order now. The Walmart exclusive, there's a Roddy Piper as Nada from They Live, and that's actually up for pre-order now on Walmart.com. And it's interesting looking figure, especially the way they did him as as the character from probably his most famous movie role. I would assume. I mean, it's one that I remember
by far.
And then the other one I haven't seen go up for pre-sale yet, but it's a Target exclusive Ultimates Dave Batista figure. Looks really good, but I don't collect, so I have no interest in it.
I was surprised at the era they went for with that right there. I mean, that was actually, I didn't expect that, but that was probably the best version of Batista.
Yeah. And since we're on Mattel news, and we'll move right along into Masters of the Universe, especially since this first wave is their last and final wave of WWE Masters of the Universe mashup. These are actually up for pre-order now. Surprisingly, most of the retailers I looked at are actually already sold out of these. I didn't think these actually sold at all because I see them in the store all the time, but every online retailer sold out this last wave.
They actually sell pretty well. I mean, I was following a couple of the, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe pages on Facebook, and there's a huge core group of on every one of those pages that are, you're like, hey, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Trying to swap or trade or buy, from various other collectors online. I'm like, wow, I didn't.
And it may be that I just see the same ones in the store all the time. I know I see them in there all the time, and maybe it's the same ones as the peg warmers of the groups, but this is Wave 8, and I wasn't even sure that they had made it that far, but this one's got a Stone Cold Steve Austin with a trap jaw sort of aesthetic to him. Rey Mysterio, who's made up to look like Stratos, which is probably the most natural.
I think he's been done twice in the line, though.
I want to say he's been in there before. This one's a more Stratos colored one. It's got the blue and red wings, and it's got the gray bodysuit. And then there's a China, which I don't see anything about this figure that actually reminds me of China more than it does She-Ra, other than the black hair. Interesting wave, interesting lineup there, but
the lineup before that actually didn't look bad. I don't collect these, and that's why I didn't buy any. But it had Bret the Hitman Hart and Sergeant Slaughter, and both of those looked really good.
The Sergeant Slaughter one I really liked.
Yeah, where he's got the Man-at-Arms type of attire, and Bret had the what was it, Triclops. Those actually look pretty cool to me. And if I stumbled upon Bret, I would probably buy it just because I'm a Hitman fan. But Slaughter, I hadn't really ever bought any Slaughter merchandise other than G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
And I was actually like, wow, this looks pretty good. I mean, it was worth, a snag, but I didn't get it.
I think they really missed one special thing on here, though. When they did the John Cena figure, they didn't call him the most invisible man in the universe.
Why did we not get a translucent version? It's just, you can't see it. But
they can't make him the Ghost of Grayskull.
They made the faker version, though. It's like,
oh. We do have some other Masters of the Universe figures that went up for pre-order today, too. Wave 3 of Revelations Masterverse figures. And it seems like they're starting to branch out away from just what was on the cartoon now, because you do have a Revelations classic Tila from the first episode. And then you've got Merman from later on, where he's scarred up and got the messed up eye and stuff. And then you get to a couple of figures that were not on the show, but I'm guessing that they're trying to branch out and say this is kind of like their multiverse line. And it's a Viking He-Man and a Barbarian Skeletor, which the Barbarian Skeletor is actually pretty cool looking with the helmet on and half of his face covered up and all. He looks very nice.
I haven't actually seen that one there. I've seen the Barbarian or the Viking He-Man. I have seen that one. I haven't seen the Skeletor.
Yeah, he looks pretty cool. Since we're on the subject of Masters of the Universe now, they've actually got Origins Wave 8 up for pre-order for a March release date. Got a lineup of Clawful, Anti-Eternia He-Man, so we've got another He-Man repaint already. This is like the fifth one. But we do get a new figure with the Horde Trooper, and we get the I want to call it the knockoff figure of Forever, but Sunman. This was the knockoff figure that they basically took Clamp Champ's head and stuck it on a different He-Man body and said, hey, we're going to resell this as a different company and call him Sunman, and he's supposed to be as powerful as He-Man. So it's pretty cool to see they actually drug that into it.
Him redecoed as Samuel L. Jackson. Nothing more. I'm not asking for much. Just give me my Samuel L. Jackson and I'm good.
But while we are on Masters of the Universe, we'll take a minute and pay some respects for the original artist and toy designer, T. Mark Taylor. He passed away on December 23rd at the age of 80 from congestive heart failure. He was the toy designer who did a vast majority, if not all, of the original He-Man and Masters of the Universe. So I want to definitely give him a shout out and pay our respects to him and his loved ones, and hope they're doing well at this time. I mean, it's terrible to go right around that time of Christmas, and since we're on that, and I don't think we actually even put this in the notes for today's show, but we should probably give a shout out to Betty White too. That was the greatest. That was the most gangster lady ever. And she passed away
14 days away from her 100th birthday. I mean, How terrible is that? I mean, she was a national treasure. I mean,
she was.
Death, give us her back and take Brandon. We'll trade.
Wow, that went south real quick. But yeah, we'll pay respects for both T. Mark Taylor and Betty White at this point in time. We'll give them a quick moment of silence before we move ahead. And with that, we'll move on to our next toy line, which is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. NECA revealed several things on the Foosh podcast, and this is not a plug for necessarily that is a sponsor by any means, but if you enjoy action figure collection, watch anything that Foosh does. They do a very good review section. They do very good podcasts, very good reveals. They have a weekly news update, which is fantastic. But they had a chance to sit down with Trevor Zammit from NECA and go over some reveals that coming up for this year. So first was an animated Neutrino 3-pack, which is pretty neat looking. I was never really a big fan of the Neutrinos on the cartoon, but these look like came straight off the screen. The one I am more excited.
Very steel accurate, I guess.
Yeah. The one I am excited about, though, is an animated style Usagi Yojimbo. I like Usagi Yojimbo. I'm glad to see him getting some love in this. I'm hoping he shows up in the Ultimates line at some point. And if he does, I may have to go back and start collecting those, because I've kind of shunned them at this point just for price point. And I'm already getting so many others, but I'm gonna probably have to go pick up the 4 turtles. And they've already got Ray Fillet and Ace Duck is coming. I'm like, man, I need all those. We've also got a 2-pack of Crooked Ninja Turtle Goon and the Rock Soldier Infantryman. Now, this was the funniest looking 2-pack to me. That the Ninja Turtle Goon was awesome. I don't know if you saw it. He's actually in a little, basically a Halloween costume with a bag over his head made to look like a Ninja Turtle.
I actually haven't seen that. That's actually okay.
That's actually it's pretty funny. And then we've got a Toka and Razor 2-pack. They look animated style versus movie style. They have more of a cell shaded look to the aesthetic and more cartoony look, kind of like the rest of the NECA line to fit in with.
The colors are a little off, even for animated to me.
Yeah, no word on any of those when they're coming out or anything. Just coming in this year of 2022. Since we were talking about Super 7 a little bit, we can pop over to Super 7 for a minute. They did give a Simpsons Ultimates Wave 2 teaser, so we're going to continue jumping the shark for the coming time periods. I mean, as much as I gave them grief for not needing an Animaniacs Ultimates Wave, I really don't need Simpsons toys.
I need them not to focus on bullshit like those 2 properties and get my damn Silverhawks out and my Thundercats that are behind. That's what I need.
Yeah, and I'm hearing reports that the Thundercats Wave 2 is actually on the water somewhere. I don't know if they've made it to port yet, but they hopefully will be here within the next month or 2. Depending on when they get them, and they got to get them all in hand before they can ship them out. So, and as we saw with the last Thundercats wave, is that when they ship them in the case of. We see them in a store of a case usually of all the figures in the line, but they get them in one figures in a case. That's all that's in the case. So they get them all in before they start shipping them out to everybody. So even if they get Tiger in, but they don't have Pimira, you're not getting them until they get all of them. But while we're on some of the subject of Super 7 and the things they have, G.I. Joe and this is all a rumor at this point, so you can take it with a grain of salt, but we're starting to see a lot of information come out that Hasbro is actually going to do a 6-inch retro line for the 40th anniversary. And I didn't realize what they meant by 40th anniversary. They're actually talking about the 3.75-inch line anniversary, which I thought they came out at the same time with cartoon, which was 84, 85, but the first 3.75-inch figures were in 1982.
Yeah, because the first Snake Eyes is extremely ultra rare because his arms don't swivel. They only bend up and down like this right here. And until recently, I was even unaware of this. And I call myself a collector and was almost ashamed when I found out that a huge fact like this I hadn't already, been aware of. But yeah.
And I was aware of the joint thing, but I did not realize that the first wave, which was, like
82.
Snake Eyes, Hawk stuff, was the 82, which was like 3 or 4 years before the cartoon aired. And I was like, wow, I didn't really know that. But they're looking at doing a 6-inch line, which the reason we know that is there's listings up on Walmart because these are going to be Walmart exclusives. They're listed as Mars and Rocket, which is code names that were previously used for Baroness figures and Lady J. Baroness being Mars and Lady J being Rocket. I guess the big question for me here is these are coming up and they've got a $22.99 price tag. They're listed with the dimensions of the 6-inch size box or figure on a card back like a Star Wars retro. I guess my question is, what is this going to be? Is this going to be a new figure, which doesn't make sense to me because if it's a new figure, it doesn't fit with anything else.
A classified figure repainted.
Exactly what I was going
to be more. They won't disparage the detail that the classified has, but however, it will have a more cartoon color scheme with the retro pack with explosion, which is great. And you get an extra backpack or something. I mean, it's going to have a little more of the old school 3 3/4 accessories, I would imagine.
And that's what I was assuming because if you do it in a new package and it's a new figure, but you're not doing all figures, and when it doesn't fit in with what I'm collecting as classified, if it's more cartoon, it doesn't fit in with what I'm getting for Super 7 in their line for Ultimates because even if I open it, they're an inch shorter because Super 7's Ultimates are 7 inches, not 6. So it's not going to fit in there. It's not going to have the same points of articulation of Super 7 because they have less articulation for more of a, I don't want to say dynamic, more of a cartoon style stance for the characters.
Well, were they to give us new figures in that line? I mean, that pretty well just kills classified dead in the water. Because I mean, if you had a brand new say Sergeant Slaughter finally gets dropped, but it's only going to be in the retro line.
Right.
I mean, you're going to want that figure out there.
Yeah.
But if they were to say at the same time, okay, we're going to do one classified as well with a little different coloring, what are you buying?
I'm buying the classified to fit with my set. Because if you're an inbox collector and I'm standing up boxes of figures, I don't want one that's going to hang on the wall on a card. And that vice versa, if I'm getting one on a card, it's not going to go in the same space on my, on a bookshelf or a shelf of some sort as my box classifies. So I'm going to be
honest, Monster. You surprised me right there. I would have thought that the nostalgia and the retro would have won you over if you had a choice in the two.
If I was going to get them all in retro, I'd probably swap them all to retro and hang them up. But if I'm not, then I've got 2 different spaces I've got to fill up with these things.
So we going on record right here and saying Monster is staying away from the retro line.
I probably am, especially if it's repaints of classifieds. I mean, honestly, we've already had 4 roadblocks at this point, 3 or 4 roadblocks, and we've already had a repaint of the entire first wave of classifieds.
I seen a new gun the other day, and it was like, this is the same damn figure. I don't even see anything different. It's like the paint's a little lighter, and I think, at least with Roadblock, you did have a little different tooling on the head, I think.
Yeah.
In the first 2. Now, I will give them credit. They finally got it right by the 3rd one, because I finally got my comic cartoon accurate. Well, is there a 3rd one between there?
You had the original one. You had the Cobra Island one, which was a different head and a different, and they painted a shirt on him. Versus the vest. They took the vest off. And then the 3rd one was a repaint of the very first one with a different color scheme to be more cartoon accurate, because the first one was like a darker color. So the 4th one was actually the cartoon accurate Roadblock with the camo tank top.
When I finally got that one, Here's my deal to get in your rear. I mean, that's the one I had to have. I mean, I went for the Amazon exclusive, cartoon accurate.
I mean, it's interesting that they're going to do a anniversary wave for 40th anniversary of a 3.75-inch line by making them a 6-inch figure too. And not only that, but Hasbro's doing the O-ring vintage, so you've already got that 3.75-inch vintage market there. And they were doing a Walmart retro vintage, which they put on permanent hiatus or indefinite hiatus because it wasn't selling. So it's kind of interesting to see how they're trying to get that in. And at the same time, I was like, why do a 6-inch? Now you're competing with your classified line, and you're trying to compete with the space that you're giving Super 7 for their 7-inch ones. Why even do this?
Well, we're out to buy a 3 3/4. We've discussed this before. They're going to be more in line with the 25th anniversary ones we got a few years back.
Right.
There's absolutely no way in hell I want to. Excuse me. There's no way in hell I want an O-ring style figure unless it's not an 80 from the 80s.
Right.
I'm just not happening.
Yeah. Well, we'll move on from them because we beat that horse to death. But talking about your properties from the 80s, Cops and Crooks. Huh. New figures coming for Fresh Monkey Fiction. And when you first sent me this, because you turned me on to this news, I was excited. I was like, oh, really? And then I saw them. And they're 1 1/4 inch tall. They're very animated looking. They honestly, I'm not even sure if they move other than maybe like their shoulder joints, but they look like the I can't even remember what they're called now, but they're basically the Imaginext figures of Cops and Crooks. I was like, well, I don't really need that because that's a little bit below my age range. But
I was scrolling Facebook yesterday, and I follow Toy News International. Great page if you don't follow. And I see it reads Cops. And first thing hits me, fighting crime in a future time. I got excited. Yeah. I was like, oh shit, are we finally? And Super 7, if you want to get a property, get that.
Yeah.
I would probably buy that. But, I scroll down and then there are these little guys about this big right here, about the size of Christmas ornaments. All you need to do is screw a little damn hook in the top of them, and that's all he's good for. I'm just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. And it's funny, they're selling in packs of 4. They're $29.99 for a pack of 4 of them, which is a little bit overpriced to me. And they're up for pre-order now, but they release sometime later in first quarter of this year, so I'm assuming probably by March if they're pre-ordering right now.
If you will wait until December, you will find them in the Ollie's for $5.
Most likely. Thinking about other things going up for pre-order and announcements, so we've got some DC Comics toy news. McFarlane Toys, they shared a picture of Clayface Megafigure. We heard about this a while ago, but we didn't see it until now. It's going up for pre-order later this month, and then rumored for more reveals to come this month to go along with that one. We don't know what these actually look like. We've seen no pictures of them, but there's a Dark Detective Batman, or I'm assuming it's Batman. It's just called Dark Detective. There's the Next Batman, which I'm not sure what that one's supposed to be. Damian Wayne Robin, which is basically a repainting of his Robin suit with the black suit that he's wearing now, the black and gray.
Oh, the Next Batman. That's the story they done where Lucius Fox's son takes over.
Okay, so maybe that's who it is.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember that, and I was trying to figure that out. I was like, man, what is that? But we've talked about this one before. Dark Knight Returns, Batman versus Superman 2-pack, and then Batman Rebirth. It says Rebirth 1.0, so I'm assuming it's the first Rebirth suit he had. I'm assuming that's Bruce and not the Jim Gordon Rebirth Batman, is what I'm assuming that is based on that.
Fingers crossed.
But we'll get more. We'll share more news of that as we see it coming. But right now, the only one that's really been revealed that we've seen pictures of is Clayface. And again, that's supposed to go for pre-order later this month. So I'm assuming we'll see more of these later in the month.
I'm not a fan of it. I mean, I seen it. It did not look good to me. And I'm a Clayface fan. I like a good Clayface figure. You could do so much with that, but they went south on me. I'm not a fan of it.
I looked at it, but I wasn't turned on or off either way. It has no meaning to me, so I was like, okay.
It shan't stay at the Hassel abode on a shelf.
But while we're talking comics, let's swap over to Marvel Comics. They've got some major news that came out this week, and I'm surprised they kept this quiet as long as they did, because they waited till the book was actually in people's hands to announce this. But in the last week, maybe 2 weeks, I can't remember exactly when it came out, but Timeless #1, which was the next book after the King, the Conqueror book they were doing, the next chapter of that story came out, and introducing a character that's been around for many years, but never, and was bought by Marvel many years ago, but never been in the Marvel 616 universe proper, and that's Miracle Man. They're bringing him into the 616, and they're saying, how does he affect the future of the Marvel universe? I don't know if they've even done any new stories in the last 10 years with Miracle Man. I think it's just been reprints at this point. But
well, that's the thing about this. They acquired the rights to him, 10 years ago, probably five
probably
at
closer
least.
to 20.
I mean, they had a big back and forth, but they actually had the rights to him, and they teased it one time, roughly 10 years or so ago, I thought.
And it was just reprints.
Yeah, and the next thing you know, all you got was some reprinted stories that people had already owned trade paperbacks of. No one wants that shit. They wanted to see him introduced into the Marvel universe.
Yeah.
And instead, we got Blue Marvel, which I was a fan of. But
yeah, and that's what I was going to say. He's basically the same as Blue Marvel at this point. So Blue Marvel is a much more noble character to me. And don't get me wrong, I don't dislike Miracle Man. I just don't see where he fits in the DC universe. It's basically, let's throw another Superman wannabe into here. And this one's had so many issues with his sidekicks and stuff. If you've read his original books, they were pretty rough for a comic book, to be honest.
10 years ago when they acquired him, that was the time to do it, because the comic industry was booming enough and still had enough of a fan base that cared about continuity. That would have been the time to capitalize on that. They didn't. The notoriety, he cooled. You got Century, you've got Blue Marvel. Do you really need him at this point? Which Century, I guess, is dead now again. But
you come off of well, you also have Hyperion and Gladiator in that conversation as well. But you're coming off of, while Watchmen may have came out in the 80s, it really didn't peak in its popularities until the 90s. And going from the 90s into the early 2000s is about the time that they acquired Miracle Man, or were fighting over the rights for it. That would have been the time to bring him in, because people equate that Miracle Man and that grittiness of it to Watchmen. At this point, Watchmen's kind of an afterthought. It's really not even thought of as a major player anymore. People still tout it as, hey, it changed some of the industry, but is it really relevant now?
Well, people our age, we appreciate it, and it's like, holy shit, that's one of the greatest trade paperbacks of all time. Graphic novel, whatever you want to call it. The younger generation, unless someone puts them on it, they don't give a damn about it. So when Dr. Manhattan showed up in Doomsday Clock, there was like, oh, this is a big blue naked guy.
Yeah.
And Miracle Man's going to be the same way. It's like,
if they'd have been able to bring him in at that point in time, it probably would have had more gravitas than what it does now.
I think it's a little too late.
Now I'm curious to see what they're going to try and do and how they're going to try and work him in. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, do I really?
The only way I kind of see this playing out to be worthwhile is if they were to, and I mean, shove them down the throats of people.
Yeah.
You have this story, and if you don't place this guy on the Avengers, give him a solo monthly, and have him in the Avengers for the next 2 years, no one's gonna give a shit you done this 6 months from now.
Or do you just write him off at the end of this Timeless and King story and say, well, he was erased from time or whatever, so it was a waste?
But then those are the stories that make me feel like I've wasted my time reading more than any damn thing. Which is what the only thing that worries me about the Ron Lim and them's run with Silver Surfer coming back. It said that they're bringing back classic Captain Marvel. I was a huge fan when I heard that. But now it's like, okay, this is at a certain point in time. So at some point he may go back into the time stream to where he went on to die. This is probably before he had cancer, not rejuvenated Rebirth version. So it's almost like did I just read a X-Men Classics book? Because I'm wrong, they're part of continuity, but you didn't have to tell it for 20 years. So apparently it didn't matter that damn much.
Exactly.
So you feel like you, as a reader, you've wasted time. When I invest in reading a comic book, I'm not very big on Elseworld stuff. I want to read something that is going to have ramifications. To where, if say I'm reading Spider-Man, I don't want to read a 6 to 12 issues or something, and then wake up with like Dallas. Oh shit, it was a dream. No, I want this to matter 2 years from now. And I'm not saying it's got to be a continuation of 2 years. I'm just saying that, on the side panel 2 years from now, when he's battling Green Goblin, go, oh yeah, this happened back in issue blah, like it used to do, in the day. I was always a fan of that because it made you feel like what you were reading mattered. And somewhere down the pike, you're going to re-encounter ramifications or, whatever, just consequences of what happened.
I don't mind the one-off thing when they do something like that. So like you're talking about bringing Captain Marvel back and then you send him back to die in his time. If he comes and he learns that, oh, I'm going to die when I go back, but it's still the right thing to do, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to go back, so everything that I did still happens. I don't mind that when you do that, once in a while. If you do that repeatedly, it starts to get old very quickly. And that's kind of where we've gotten to in today's age because of, I think we talked about this last week on the award show, lazy writing.
Bingo.
So, since we're talking about stuff that happened in the past and telling a story of something that happened in the past, we've got one bit of movie and TV news we want to focus on before we jump into our focus topic this week, which what we're going to do is talk about upcoming movies and streaming series. But before we get to that, we wanted to take a moment and talk about the Book of Boba Fett that began last week. And this won't be a huge review or anything. We're not going to review the entire show. We just kind of our overall reactions to it. And I have to say, I thought it was a perfectly well done show. It was fantastic. And I've seen some people who were either huge fans or people who were saying that they ruined the legacy of the character by it. And when I read the article of people saying that, it sounds like people who weren't fans of Star Wars anyway saying that. And I'm like, if you don't understand it anyhow, then what does it matter?
We get answers to things from 40 years ago. You finally figure out how. I mean, yes, I know, the comics, and Legends, lore, Dark Horse, whatnot, they touched on this, but you finally get a continuity-based version of how he survived the Sarlacc. And that was the perfect way to open this show. They kicked it off, you got him healing in the back of the tank, he's trying to get his strength back, and this is years later that he's still doing this. So you feel like, okay, this, was no joke. The Sarlacc wasn't, just some booty hole looking thing with fangs in the damn desert. It was a legit, beast. And it left all these long-term effects upon him. And I don't know, they've done a really great job. I liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it tremendously. And I'm looking forward to this week's episode. He it was fantastic. We sat there and watched it and I was like, it's over already? It's only been close to an hour. This is over with?
It's got a rewatch factor. Much like The Mandalorian, it has a rewatch factor. And I'm sure The Mandalorian's, looking over his shoulder right now, pissed off at all his fans for kind of just like, but yeah.
I don't know if they are, though, because you got to think about that. This is being done by the exact same people, other than the actors, and the way they're pacing it, where you get Book of Boba Fett, and then you're going to get a Mandalorian season, then you're going to get, if you do another Boba Fett after that. So the fact they're not happening at the same time, the same people are going to keep coming back to watch both of them, I think.
I think I think season 2 is a no-brainer. It would surely surprise me for there not to be a season 2. And like you said, that would be the great formula to space them out to where, a few weeks
coming back to the channel.
A few weeks after this, you got, Mandalorian. And a few weeks after that, you got a season of Boba, and then just.
And as we're going to see in a little bit, we've got some other stuff peppering in there as well. But why don't we go ahead and jump into that? So what we wanted to go through this week was, what's the upcoming movies and TV or streaming series that are coming out in 2022. Now, for this, we're going to share the releases of where we know that they're coming out by month. We're going to talk about, hey, here's our opinions of what we're expecting and hoping out of it. Maybe some rumors if we have any rumors on some of them. Some of them I know I don't, so I'm not sure if you do. But anything that we can come up with to share on those, we wanted to go through. And the main criteria we put on this is new stuff that's starting in 2022, right? This is stuff, not something that's a continuing. This is not, Mandalorian season 3, if it's coming out in this year. This is new stuff that's coming up. The thing is, this list, no matter how inclusive it is, it's not all inclusive. So we're probably going to miss something. And if we missed anybody's favorites or something they know of that they want to talk about, feel free to share that in the comment section down below. Also, if there's anything that we missed on the rumors, and or you just want to share your expectations and feelings on some of these, also put that in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We'll interact with you and give you feedback on it. And again, we don't catch everything, so I'm sure we missed something, but we'll go ahead and kick off with this and talk about what we do have. And for the month of January, we've got first thing we had on our list was Peacemaker. Starts on HBO Max on January 13th. So this one is a streaming show. I gotta be honest, I haven't really read much of it other than what I've seen commercials of, and obviously I didn't read the commercials, but I've seen commercials for the show. And after watching John Cena's performance in the Suicide Squad, this looks extremely hilarious with enough violence.
Did you see where he said that this was
realistic.
you could watch this with the family? I'm like, nothing about your character tells me I can watch this with my family.
No, and this does not fit the original Peacemaker character, because the original Peacemaker character hated to actually use the violence. He only did it when he had to. This is a more modern take on it, which is how they're playing him in the comics. Now what's he say? I'll kill every man, woman, and child to get the peace we deserve.
Yeah.
So it's a much more gritty take, but it looks hilarious, man. I gotta say,
the beach full of dicks was the one that got me. It's like, ooh, you're serious about this, buddy?
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm looking forward to that one. I'm really ready to watch it just for the comedic factor. I don't think it's going to be the best or the most serious superhero thing we see this year, but it's probably going to be one of the funniest, if not the funniest, out of the year.
I think it'll be a fun little watch every week. Are they hour long increments? Is that what they were going with?
Yeah, most of the stuff I'm seeing is like 45 minutes to an hour. Not every episode is going to be the same length, I'm sure. Just like everything else they're doing. Just like Boba Fett is like 48, 49 minutes.
Yeah.
The next one we had was actually a movie. And so I've been saving this Morbius shirt until we got to watch the movie and got to go over it. I've had this thing for like 2 months. I haven't worn it until today. And I broke down and wore it today because, it was supposed to come out on January 28th. But at this point, we may never get it. So late last night, after we had already put together the notes for the show and stuff, it was announced that this is now moving to April 1st, 2022. Due to the newest concerns over the new pandemic variant. And for the record, for anybody who's counting, because I had to look this up, this is the 7th time this movie has been pushed off. The original release date was July 10th, 2020. Then it was July 31st, 2020. Okay, you moved it probably for another movie or for some last minute edits. Then it moved to March 19th for 2021. Then it was October 8th, 2021. Then it was January 21st this year. Then it was January 28th this year, and now it's April 1st. Yeah. Now, all the delays they have listed as being due to the pandemic, I really don't believe some of those. The ones that are 1 or 2 weeks apart is because they didn't want to compete with another movie or because they needed to last minute edit something. But come on.
Up to 3 times you can say pandemic, not wanting to compete with this particular product because you feel like, okay, we're smart enough to know our audience is going to go there. But when you have to delay a movie 7 times, there's serious issues with this movie. Whether it be the cast, the story, or things just aren't turning out the way you truly hoped it is. Because how many times have you seen a trailer that looks amazing, you get there and realize everything amazing was in that 3-minute trailer?
Yeah.
I could feel Monster's soul screaming last night as I sent him the news.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. When this movie first broke, it was being made, I had low expectations. The more I saw of it, the higher my expectations got. I was actually to the point I was like, I'm ready to actually go watch this now, especially after watching Spider-Man No Way Home and Venom 2. I was like, yeah, I want to see another Spider-Man character movie. I was hyped. Now, this ain't the same hype as a Spider-Man No Way Home, but I was excited to see it. And now you've took that away from me. You've crushed my soul once again. I mean, not that there's much there anyway, but you took what little wit was left. But the only thing that I can say that I think that it has to do with the pandemic is honestly, I'm not even sure that they can say they don't think they're going to make the money off of it. And I get there's a rise in cases right now. Yesterday was record day or whatever, right? However, I think that they still would have made the same amount of money. I think that they're, and I'm going to say this with just completely my subjective opinion, their entitled actor who is playing Morbius is probably fussing with the studio about you'll make more money if you wait, or I'm not going to back this if you don't wait until I say so, because I gotta say Sony just made $1 billion plus on a movie.
It's the
Why would
perfect
you
time
wait?
for anything within a Spider-Man franchise to try.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
promise you, Venom wish they had their part 3 ready to roll right now, or they would have been able
Oh
to
yeah,
hold off on Let There Be Carnage until after No Way Home. I mean, because it would skyrocket. It would do big business. Because, I
yeah,
mean, a couple years ago, Morbius was announced before the Marvel Cinematic Universe started getting their hands in with the Sony products, because, even though they had Spider-Man, they wasn't really having much to do with the Sony things. And you could tell by Venom 1.
right.
You could tell that their hands was in the cookie jar in Venom 2. You can tell that with Morbius, they're trying to help these people get, their properties where they need to be. So once I've seen that they had their hands in the cookie jar, so to speak, I was like, okay, I can get behind this. And I like Morbius as a character.
Oh yeah,
I loved him in Midnight Suns. I have the first appearance of Morbius signed by Stan Lee. So, it's not that I don't want this movie to do well. I'd love to it. But I'll be the first to admit there's something wrong that they're not sharing, and they know that beyond week 1, that movie's going to nosedive.
See, I would like to see it do well. I was actually thinking, maybe this will be the sleeper superhero hit of the year, or the one that everybody really enjoys, that nobody really expected to. But again, I don't know if it's something wrong with the film or if it's the actor, because I'm going to say, and again, this is just my opinion of him, but after the way that you read about how he acted and the things he did on set for Suicide Squad when he was in there as the Joker, and his demeanor to get into his method acting, I just could care less about this actor. And it's not that I don't want his movie to do well, because I just like the movie. I want to see the movie do well. I just don't care about him. So I don't know if it's him being part of this, or if the movie has just got something that badly broken or wrong with it.
We'll find out. I honestly, I think it's going to peak week 1 and then it plummets.
Well, that's kind of the formula for most of the movies right now, though, right? Throughout the pandemic, or even somewhat before, you got a lot of these that don't have staying power. Even Venom really didn't. After 2 weeks, Venom was all right. It's off the rails and off the charts at this point for everything else new.
And I enjoy Venom 2. It doesn't have a lot of rewatch factor.
No.
6 months from now, I could rewatch it again and probably enjoy it. I wouldn't want to, like with Spider-Man, where I watch it just a few days apart.
Yeah, I couldn't do that with
I
Venom.
couldn't do that. I couldn't do that with Venom. It took me a year before I rewatched Venom 1.
I don't see Morbius having that rewatch value either, but at the same time, I had more expectations for it than what I'm getting right now. Now my hopes are kind of way down on it.
They are dashed.
But we'll move on to the month of February, and the only film we've got listed in February was Uncharted, which is February 28th. I will check it out just because my son loves the video game and really wants to see it. Now, I like a good adventure movie too, and it looks like it's more of an adventure than an action or anything else. And Tom Holland's in it, and I will give him. I don't follow a lot of actors and watch everything they're in, but he's one of those that he's got quite a few that I'll actually pick up and watch. So I'll probably check it out. I don't really have necessarily high expectations or hopes, but for a fun 2-hour getaway,
of
I'm all
National
right.
Treasure in the preview I saw.
Yeah. But
that's the vibe I got out of it. It was like, okay, this is buddy comedy National Treasure.
Yeah, and I'm all right with that because, in the middle of February and I've got nothing else listed for quite a while, before that, especially now that Morbius has moved to April. I've had nothing for the first part of the year for the movies. I'm all right for that, for a 2-hour escape of reality, right? But we do have something coming shortly behind that in March, the Batman coming out on March 4th. I'm going to throw it over to you first on this one to get your expectations, input.
Low. Very low. While the trailer looks like it's well put together, I worry a little bit about the direction of the movie and how much research the director actually done. I'm not sure. But when he's taking on high caliber bullets at close range, I have a problem with that. Because even Batman, while he wears Kevlar, his suit, and I mean, it's one thing like they're shooting him and he pulls the cape up, and the cape, okay, I can get behind that because he's got.
If it's a heavy
special
Kevlar,
shielding.
it's going to take some movement and some momentum out of bullets. But you're talking handgun. This not 50 caliber machine gun.
They're literally sitting there with high caliber automatic weapons firing upon him, and he's just walking down the hall like it ain't just unfazed like he's Superman.
like his first name is Clark. No.
Yeah, I mean, when I seen it, I was like, ooh, that's. The little scene with the penguin looks interesting enough where, he's like, I got you, and he jumps through the fire in the Batmobile. Okay. I'm not a super big fan of the look of the Batmobile in this. It's probably more realistic than any Batmobile we've ever got in the past. Because it's basically just a Challenger they souped up. But
that was probably one of the few things I didn't have a problem with the Batmobile, because this is supposed to be more of a year one. And in year one, he's probably not going to have that jet engine powered Batmobile we saw Michael Keaton with, right?
Well, I'm fine with it not looking ridiculous like those. I mean, it's iconic as those are. I love Batman and Batman Returns. To the Burton verse, or however you want to put it. Love it. It's not a very realistic car. Usually in the books, after a certain amount of time, they were no longer realistic. I love the what's the cat that done the Batman movies with Christian Bale, Nolan.
Yeah.
I love his Batman. I love the way the Batmobile looks in that, but it's not realistic. I don't give a damn how much money you got. That's not a realistic looking vehicle.
You mean the Bat Tank? That wasn't a Batmobile.
Yeah.
That was a tank.
So, I mean, I'm all for a more realistic looking car, but it's at the same time, it's got I don't know, there's just something about it. Something between the spoiler on the rear and the nose of it. This is just a little for me. But it's cool enough. I'm trying to remain optimistic and go into this and not let the twinkling vampire sway me from wanting to watch this movie.
So let me put my 2 cents on that, because since you brought that part up, and it's not the actor himself that I have a problem with being Batman. My problem is, I guess, the elephant in the room before, because we're going to have some more DC movies later, but the elephant in the room with DC. What are you doing? What's your plan? Is the DCEU that you started with the Snyderverse still intact? Because half the movies and shows you got announced tie into that and have the characters and actors from that. And now you're announcing new projects that don't have any of them. Or you're saying, well, this person's not going to play this person anymore. Henry Cavill is not coming back as Superman. Okay, if you recast somebody, that's one thing if it's the same Superman. But like with this Batman, this is not the same Bruce Wayne. Even though it's a year one, this is not the same Bruce Wayne as it is in the Snyderverse Batman. They've already pointed that out.
They're continuously contradicting themselves on all of this, because
The
Rock and Black Adam, he is saying that he has no doubt in his mind that him and Henry Cavill is going to go nose to nose as Black Adam and Superman at some point. He's pretty much confirmed it's going to happen. It's a matter of when. So and Ezra Miller has said that his movie is not doing away with the Snyderverse. It's not wiping it out.
But you hear all them saying that, but you don't hear the studio saying that, and the studio is fronting the money for all this. So at what point are they going to say, we're paying for it, so we're going to do it our way? These are all now. Are you trying to build a cohesive universe to compete with Marvel, or are you not? Just tell us which way you're going, so I can decide. Okay, I can enjoy the movie this way, or do I need to say, well, why can I enjoy it this way because it doesn't tie into the other stuff?
Well, much like their books, they're more into we can just tell a story. It doesn't have to tie into the other stuff. I think they're just doing
if you're going to do that, that's fine, but say that. If you're going to still put out stuff that says, okay, Aquaman 2, which is later down on this list, it's still in the same universe as you were before. So at what point do you say, okay, well, no, it's not, or it is? It's confusing to me as a fan to say, okay, what fits here? And that's why I don't have any expectation for this Batman, because I see him put more effort into some of the other stuff. And I think there's some other things we'll talk about later when we get to some of these other movies that I've also heard comments of, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not so sure that I agree with that. From as
I'd
a
rather an
fan
executive
standpoint.
at Warner Brothers just come forth and say, "Hey, look, while Marvel is, got, a gold mine over here with their shared universe, we're not doing that with our properties. We want to set ourselves apart from them. We are going to tell stories that we want to tell within
Exactly.
this movie, 2 hour span. And it's not going to tie into another 2 hour span somewhere else. Because then you go into it and you say, okay, this is
Exactly. I just want to
Earth
know how
4
I'm looking at it.
or Earth 6 or Earth whatever, but
And I'm fine with that. If I know up front, that's how I got to look at it. But at this point, I don't care about the Batman movie because the rest of the movies you got listed this year are still in the Snyderverse, and I'm more interested in that than I am the standalone. Now, if all those are standalone, tell me, and I might gain some more interest for Batman. That's my point. But instead of spending too much more time harping on that, we can move on to the month of April. And one of these, I'm going to admit, I could care completely less about, and the other one I actually kind of want to see. But the first one that I want to see is Sonic 2, which comes out on April 8th. And I actually really enjoyed the first one. I know you said you hadn't seen it. I would tell you to go catch it on Hulu because it is on there. It's actually pretty entertaining.
I had zero desire to see the first one, but I'm not going to lie. When I seen the trailer for the second one, I watched it on my phone. I was like, okay, that looks interesting. Then when I seen it on the screen, for Spider-Man, I was like, fuck, I got to go back and watch this first movie now.
Yeah.
Like, I almost want to go get some small child and bring them to my house so I have an excuse to watch this and not feel guilty. So,
you have grandchildren. Just take the grandchild. I mean, he ain't going to realize what's going on, but,
I get the little gremlin here and give him a bunch of candy and say, sit down, boy.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that one. I really haven't seen much else other than the trailer, and I really haven't heard any rumors or anything about it. But my expectations are that that's going to be just a fun little watch to sit there, and the kid and I enjoyed the first one, so I'm sure we're going to watch that one as well. The other movie for April, I could care two flushes of the toilet about, but Harry Potter: Secrets of Dumbledore comes out on April 15th. It was in the list of movies I had when we started this list, and I was like, well, I'm going to leave it in here, but I don't watch anything Harry Potter. I don't read any of the books. I couldn't tell you two things about this other than the guy's name is Dumbledore because I've heard that word before.
Hey, see what you did there.
Every now and then. So unless you've got anything on that one, because I don't think you get into any of those either, we can move right on to the month of May. You never have to worry
about Hassel giving you a review of a fucking Harry Potter movie. I can promise you.
And before we even move on to May, let's make a point too. The list we had when we started making this and going through does not have any horror stuff, even though we talk about it a lot. So we're going to have to come back and pick those up on a later episode. We just did not have it at this point in time for this one. So we will come back and check those out. But I haven't heard, other than what you mentioned earlier, Halloween.
But
I haven't heard too
Halloween
many
Kills, and I'm sure it's going to drop around, September, October. They haven't. There's been no prominent horror news.
Yes, and that's the thing. I didn't see any either when we started this list, so that's why we kind of left it out. But we will, for anybody who's wondering why we didn't bring any of that up, if there are some coming, we will catch them later. We just
because I promise you,
the news.
When Terrifier 2 gets a release date, your boy's going to touch on it. It's happening.
So we'll move into the month of May with that. And the first movie we got in May is Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, coming out on May 6th. This one I'm looking forward to. I think this is going to probably be, I would have to say, looking at all the rest of them and what we've already talked about, this is probably going to be my one of the year that's going to be my favorite. Now, I don't think it's going to be the biggest one, but I would say it's probably going to be my favorite of the year.
I think it's going to do really big numbers. I'm talking about really big numbers because while Doctor Strange, it was a good, well put together movie. After Avengers, he's been building steam. He is that character that Marvel has just found a way to take him beyond his core group of fans. And
that's a fair point.
They have just built steam and almost made him one of the most important characters within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now that Steve Rogers is kind of gone, Thor's off doing his own thing. I mean, he's kind of your boy that you got to go to there. So, I mean, I think it's going to be massive. I mean, I
think it's going to be big. I don't know if it's going to be the biggest one, and I'll touch on why in a couple of months here for movies that we're going through. But
well, I know what your counter offer is, and I won't say nothing, but I know what your counter offer is.
yeah, but I think it's going to be a great one. It's the one I'm most looking forward to because I want to see what they're going to do next with the multiverse, and I want to see how it all plays out. And I like those type of multiverse stories when they're self-contained. I don't, if it's a long-term book for multiverse stuff and something's different every time you read it, I don't want to see that. But the miniseries and stuff, I love those, and I like the mystical stuff, so I really want to see what they do with it.
And they've done a really good job making Baron Mordo in the first one a sympathetic villain, or by the end of it, when he becomes a villain, I suppose he's a sympathetic villain. So I don't think he's still treading the line of being a villain in this. So man, that's good. I kind of, not gonna lie, I want to see Ned show up and do a cameo in this. His nanny said he had magic in his blood. I mean, I want to see him show up and, because Strange was impressed with him. I'll give him that.
And I'll say this too, for this being a multiverse movie, this is your perfect opportunity to introduce any characters you haven't already brought into your MCU, your X-Men, your Fantastic Four. If this is
that's actually rumored. I was a topic I seen yesterday. I wasn't sure if I sent it to you or not, but that was an article I was reading, and they're saying it's going to be possibly a reverse No More Mutants.
That would actually be interesting.
Because where, in House of M, she says no more mutants. The population drops down to about 200 mutants. This is going to be because they finally released. They're releasing some cutscenes out of movies that they haven't released in the past, and there was one of from Iron Man with Nick Fury, and I was in the cutscene. He's saying, it's enough to have to deal with, people being bit by radioactive spiders or assorted mutants all over the planet. I have to deal with your pampered ass now, and they cut it. So, is this where we finally get our introduction to mutants? It's the perfect opportunity. I don't want to see a bunch of the Fox mutants show up, to be honest.
I want to recast them. I want the characters from the Fox movie, but I'm good with the recasting because at this point, let's just do something different. We've done the same thing for many, many years, and not to say it wasn't bad, it wasn't successful. Let's move on.
It's the only way to get beyond, and you can't pick and choose. You can't cherry pick the ones you get. I mean, I love Patrick Stewart as Xavier. He's old at this point. But you can't get the guy from, Wanted without, what I'm saying? I mean, the only one of those that has the longevity, honestly, other than him, would be the cat that plays Magneto. And he does a fantastic job. But,
I say just recast all of them.
Because, who's going to step in for, the cat that plays Wolverine? He's too old at this point to play more than one more movie. And as much as I'd love to see him there, it just doesn't make sense. Get you a young actor. I mean, if they'll follow what they did with Tom Holland and Spider-Man, get you young enough actors that can grow within the roles.
Yeah.
Where when you have sequels, they're at the appropriate ages. Sign them for fucking 10 deals. Whether it be cameos in movies or 5
tie them up.
Yes. That's the thing to do, and be smart about it.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that they do something around. I guess we'll have to wait till May to see. It was originally scheduled for March, but that's the one thing I've noticed here is not just with the Sony movie, but and I don't think we brought this up yet, but all the DC stuff that was announced this past year is still set where it was at. Everything Marvel has moved. And now what's funny is everything Marvel moved to another Marvel movie spot and moved them all backwards. But because at some point, like the first one, the Doctor Strange, should have been in March, and then the next one that we come up to, which is in July, should have been, or the May movie should have been the next one we're going to talk about that's now in July. So they all moved back a slot, but it's kind of weird to see that all their stuff moved now. Is that better or worse for them? Probably better, because the way they pump out their stuff and the amount of effort they put into it, it's going to do it well.
Marvel's not. They don't have a track history of just jumping all over the place and moving for the sake of moving. Typically, at least with their MCU movies, if it moves, it's because they're still tweaking something to make it to, because they're such perfectionists. They want it to be at this level. And the fact that DC, they don't give a shit. Let's get it out the gate and let's see what we got.
Well, that's coming from AT&T and Warner Brothers, right? So just like if they'd have been willing to move the first Justice League movie where we really had to worry about a Snyder cut and the bad version of Justice League that we got versus just let this man go grieve, come back and do what he needs to do.
Yeah, instead they wait what 4 or 5 years and pump another $200 million in it, and
because they were
you finally get what you should have got a few years prior.
And it started because they were unwilling to move their schedule any. Unless they can say they want to. Yes, he left because he had personal stuff that happened. Now, could they have really waited as long as he needed time off? I don't know, but did they have to keep rushing right away to do it? No.
They're the epitome of too big to fail.
Yeah. But since we're talking about them, the next movie is actually a DC movie, and this is the one for the kids. And I got to admit, I laughed at the trailer for it because of who's in it. You know, with The Rock and Kevin Hart being in it, but the DC, the League of Super Pets, coming out on May 20th. I will end up watching that one just for the heck of it. Now, I'm not going to the theater. This is an HBO Max movie for me at best, but I want to see that. It actually looks pretty funny. And I will probably enjoy it on that level of, that was a good time killer for hopefully no more than an hour and a half with that one. But I don't have the highest expectations in the world, but I'm not disappointed with looking forward to it either.
It's not on my to-do list, but,
It's one of those, if you catch it on, you catch it on.
If I walk into the room and the kids are watching, Dad will sit down and watch with them. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha.
Dad's not cutting it on for them, though.
But we do have another classic for you that's coming out in May. Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun 2. Coming out May 27th. I thought this movie was actually supposed to have been like 2 years ago, unless it was just pandemic pushed to this point.
I thought they could just scrapped it at some point because they got pushed out so far.
I have completely forgot about it, to be honest, up to this point. Now, I love the first Top Gun. I'm not so sure. I don't harp on the actors too much or stuff, but, Tom Cruise has been a little out of it the last few years, especially, Now, I won't say that his performances have been necessarily bad, but I'll tell you that I didn't enjoy the last Mission Impossible, and you wonder how much of it's because he's become completely insane. So I'm not sure how this movie's going to go, but I love the first Top Gun, so I'm going to end up watching it. But, I'm not sure my expectations are high.
There's two things that if I don't get, I'm going to be really disappointed. One, a Kenny Loggins soundtrack, and two, Zombie Goose. I mean, I'm just saying, I'm putting that out there. I mean, I want Danger Zone and Zombie Goose.
I think you're going to be disappointed because I don't think you're going to get either one of those. Unless you get Danger Zone itself. I don't think you get a full Kenny Loggins soundtrack other than that one song just replaying at some point.
I mean, Kenny's not dead, is he? I mean, the man's still alive, right?
I really don't know.
If he's alive, they damn well better have a new single.
That's a good question. Since we're talking, I am going to take a second and look that up because I really don't know. I thought he passed. Don't
say that about a true icon.
I could be completely wrong, but I thought he had. No, I don't guess so.
I'm all right.
Are you saved by the bell?
Man, am I? Woo! Kenny, if you're listening, we need a new single.
That might be. I'm not sure he's getting in a recording studio at 73 years old at this point, but he might. Who knows? But let's jump ahead to June. So in June, we've got the next Jurassic Park installment, and I actually had to look up the title and what number it was because I honestly couldn't remember. This one is Jurassic World Dominion. It's the 6th installment overall and the 3rd under the Jurassic World banner. So the 3rd for Chris Pratt. It is set for June 10th. I enjoy all the Jurassic Park movies. The only one I probably didn't care too much for was the 3rd one where they bring the Tyrannosaurus into the mainland in San Francisco or wherever it's at. And
well, isn't this one here the one where they're actually bringing back the cat from the first movie?
Maybe
in the last one?
I'm not sure. I don't. To be honest, that's the problem. As much as I enjoyed them, they're not memorable enough or rewatchable enough for me to go back.
What's his name? Neil. He had the Velociraptor. He threatened the kid with it. Told him how they gut him or whatever.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I just can't remember his name.
If he wasn't in the last one, he's in this
Sam
one.
Neill?
Sam Neill. There you go. There you go, monster. But if he wasn't in the last one, he's in this one.
Yeah, I think he's probably. I don't remember him being in the last one, but again, as much as I've enjoyed these and I've liked Chris Pratt's, two so far, they're just not as superbly memorable as the very first Jurassic Park. It's like, okay, it's kind of the same thing over and over.
I stopped with part 2.
I can't blame you. I've enjoyed them, but again,
I
they're
will
not
watch
fantastic.
37 parts of Friday the 13th, and I'll stop at 2 parts of Jurassic Park. I need my believability.
So we've got one more in June though, and this was probably the one for me, this animated of the year that I really want to. Well, I'll take that back because there's another anime one coming out, but I don't know if you've seen the previews for this one, but Lightyear
Pisses me off.
Really, I am excited to see that.
I'm not gonna lie. When I first seen the little, first teaser trailer we got, I got excited. I mean, the young adult, well, we was probably teenagers when Toy Story dropped.
Yeah, but all of those were fantastic, man. There's
know,
not one of those I can't watch.
Well, I love Toy Story.
And some of them will actually still tear me up.
I was like excited at first. Oh shit, they done a little spaceman and all this. But then when I heard that voice, and it was not Tim Allen, I said, "You sons of bitches!"
But he's not supposed to be. But he's not supposed to be the toy. So I'm all right with it being a different voice, and I actually like the actor who was doing the voice. So
they shit in my plate, and I'm not happy.
Well, he's supposed to be an actual heroic space character in this one versus the toy, so I'm all right with that.
Space Ranger monster, and I need Tim Allen.
I'm all right with it though because it's Chris Evans. I can deal with that.
I'm gonna wait. It's one of those. I'm gonna wait for the jury to be out, and we're gonna go ahead and announce it right here. Monster is reviewing this movie. 2 weeks. We'll give him 2 weeks after the movie drops, before it gets out there.
I will agree to reviewing it, but let's. I won't set a time frame just in case we're traveling for work or something. That way I won't lie to him.
Barring his $1 billion business needing him to do something like go in there and fire some executives.
I don't do all that. Okay.
2 weeks later, we should be able to work this in, and that gives you Ham and Eggers 2 weeks to go watch it. If you tell me it's worth it, I'll go then.
All right. We can make that deal. The only thing I said, we won't put a time frame on it, but I will make it as quickly as I can to see it because I will probably try to see it the opening weekend because I love the Toy Story stuff. It was just amazingly well done, and I'm excited to see what this is.
Oh, I already figured you'll watch it that weekend. I was just saying we'd wait 2 weeks to give a review.
Gotcha.
You give everybody a time to go watch it because within 2 weeks.
For a spoiler review, we can do a spoiler-free one before that, hopefully. But with that, we'll move on into July, and we've got a couple of big movies in July. 2 that I'm really excited for. Thor: Love and Thunder on July 8th. This is the one where we were talking a few minutes ago. I think this is going to be the one that's going to have the highest gross of the year. As much as I think Doctor Strange story is going to be more meaningful, and I'm going to like it better, after Thor Ragnarok and the amount of money it hauled in and the word of mouth of how good that one was, I think
it's
this
the same director too.
I think this one will take the money category.
Did you see the concept art that dropped today?
Yes, amazing looking.
I really was a fan of both of those, even though they took some liberties with Thor's outfit. But you finally get the blue. You get the blue in there, and it's blue and gold.
But it's not too far away. They took some liberties, but it's not terribly far off.
No, I liked it, and Jane's outfit looks really great, and it looks just like her book comic version with a little color variation or whatever.
Yeah, with a little flair to it.
And if you zoom in a little bit, you can see where Mjolnir is pieced back together, and there's still cracks in it. I like that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this one's going to probably be, again, I think Doctor Strange will be my favorite, but I think this one's going to be the money maker for him this year. Just because the reputation the last one had.
Well, with the lady being one of the big stars of the movie, you're going to draw in the female audience, and then it's got a lot of comedic factor. Because, the last one, whether you were a superhero fan or not, there was so many great
You could
spots.
not enjoy that movie.
Yes, that movie had, I was surprised because, I really enjoyed Thor 1. Thor 2 was a little,
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
So when I first seen Ragnarok, I was surprised. And that was the first one where they kind of put the comedic spin on,
Dude,
Thor a little bit.
that
I
opening
was,
scene where he's sitting in there in that cage, that is the greatest.
son of bitch. I was
Dude,
like,
well, and I'll say this too. This is a little aside, but you talked about how the second wasn't that good. The only two Marvel movies I did not own and have in my collection until this year because I just didn't care for them. But then I was like, well, I need to complete the set. Was Iron Man 3 and Thor 2. And somebody sent them to me. My mom sent them to me for Christmas. So I'm like,
you know what?
now I have them. I didn't have them before that.
I'll agree with the consensus on both of those. Because I can't watch Thor 2. I will not watch Iron Man 3.
Yeah, I'm not rewatching that one for anything. Now I'll rewatch Thor 2, especially after seeing how it tied into the Infinity War and Endgame and stuff. I went back and rewatched it some, but I can't rewatch Iron Man 3 at all. But our other movie for July, back to a DC property, we got Black Adam on July 29th. And I got to admit, again, I said I don't follow a lot of actors. I follow a lot of The Rock stuff, and about 80 to 85% of his movies are generally pretty good. He's got a few stinkers in there, a few where just the part he played didn't make any sense, but that dude looks like he was built to be Black Adam.
You know what? I'm actually excited with that one. That there, it's right up my alley. He's a badass anti-hero that he does what he has to do to get the job done. I mean, I'm digging it. I mean, I'm excited. It's in the Snyderverse.
The other characters that are cameoing in it, you got Hawkman in it. We've seen Dr. Fate's going to be in it, Cyclone. So a lot of the Justice Society, which I am fantastic with, especially Dr. Fate. I'm a huge fan of him, and you got a former James Bond playing Dr. Fate. I'm all about that.
I want to see Wildcat show up. I'm gonna be honest.
I haven't heard rumors if he's even rumored for it though.
I haven't either, but I mean, it's a guilty pleasure of what I would like to see happen.
Now, I will say I have one complaint with the build-up to this movie. And I'm not going to say it's in the movie or the movie itself, but I got to complain with the build-up is where they keep saying that, and The Rock's bad about saying this, where the Black Adam is going to upset and change the balance of power in the DCU. Yes, he's an extremely powerful character. He's at top level. He's on par with Superman, but I'm going to tell you, at the end of the day, he's never going to be Superman. No. So if you try to unseat Superman, say Black Adam is the most powerful, Superman is not anymore, I got a problem with that.
Yeah, that there, and I mean, I don't know how you keep him and Shazam away from each other either.
No. And as powerful as they are, they have the magic on their side. It's been proven time and again that at the end of the day, Superman's just got too many more powers, and he ends up overpowering and beating either one of them if he ever fights with them. So
that's probably one of the best episodes of Justice League Unlimited to me was the episode Clash where Shazam and when he's still called Captain Marvel like he should be. Yes. Battles Superman. I mean, that's a great episode. And Kingdom Come, that was a really great storyline, and he has his way with Supes for a good little while there. But eventually, he does get beyond the weakness to magic and defeat him. And Black Adam's no different. But Black Adam's still a bad son of a bitch. You don't always have to say. Well,
and I'm not saying I don't.
99% of the people on the planet, Superman's going to beat up.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I don't want him to be badass. No, I just don't want him to say that he's more powerful than Superman or the better superhero than Superman, because the name is in his name. Right? Superman. He should be your ultimate superhero in that universe.
We both know what that is truly about. The Rock is probably one of the. I mean, the been promoting since he was a child.
Yeah.
He's selfless promoting right now because if he pisses the Superman fans off, they're going to clamor enough for a Henry Cavill Superman return. That's going to be huge box office numbers.
That's a good point.
This man is smart. He's setting it up. He's setting the stage because he knows his fans are going to back him and they're going to clamor. And you're going to finally get the fans from The Witcher that have probably not seen Superman before they watched Witcher. They're getting into it like, oh, this is my dog right here. And they're going to start and say what you want about Twitter. I mean, you get enough voices going back and forth. We've seen stranger things happen all over a handful of people on Twitter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting. How
do you think we got the Snyder cut?
Fair point. So let's move ahead. We got September. We've only got one movie there, and they haven't set the actual week yet, but it's Mission Impossible 7. I'll be honest with you, I slept through 6. I tried twice to watch it, and I fell asleep both times. And I could care less about it. The first two, the three of those were fantastic. After that, downhill for me.
That month there is rather lackluster. Hopefully, John Wick 4 opens that month.
Yeah,
so
and
I have something.
the only reason I didn't include it in here when we started the notes is because I couldn't find the actual date on it.
They haven't released one.
Okay, so hopefully it comes because I'm not a fan of again Mission Impossible at this point. I am a fan of the movie in October, and this was the one I almost overlooked, but this will probably be my animated movie of the year, which is the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1.
I can back that.
And I gotta say, the first Into the Spider-Verse was a great movie. This one looks just as good. There was a couple of choices I didn't necessarily like in the first one, the way they portrayed the Peter Parker that they had, but at the same time, it was more to be about Miles, and I actually like Miles as a character, so I enjoyed it. So I'm actually looking forward to this one and seeing where they go to it here, and they're going to have more Spider-Man in it, so I would love to see a voiceover cameo from Toby and Andrew and Tom Holland in it. That would be awesome to have those three actors with a cameo and voiceover.
Is the cat from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friend still alive?
I'm not sure because I'm not even sure who did the voice on that one.
Well,
actually, he was in the game. He was in the game.
That was what I'm saying. A couple of years ago, he was actually the voice of that version of Spider-Man in the game. So that's why I was just kind of hopeful
I think he was too on the animated Spider-Man show when they did the Spider-Verse on there. I think he came back as one of those.
I would love to see him. Even if it's just a small,
Well, I'd actually like to see some of the other animated Spider-Man do voiceovers too. The one from the '90s cartoon. Then you also still have a lot. And I think he did Spider-Man 2099 and the new Spider-Man cartoon when they did the Spider-Verse on it. But you also have Neil Patrick Harris did Spider-Man when it was on MTV, that little short-lived animated series they had there. You could have him do a voiceover role. That would be pretty cool. And then you had you still have a few others on there from the video games and the TV shows. I can't remember all of them's name, but I know there was like 4 different ones.
I don't have a deep dive into the video games myself, but I mean, I would like to see certain ones, like the animated series from the '90s, Amazing Friends. Even Doogie House would be fun.
And the guy who's done the last 2 series on Disney Plus did a good job with Spider-Man. As far as being the voice, I wouldn't mind seeing him do
Unlimited or whatever it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him do a cameo in that. But again, that movie is going to catch my interest, and I've seen the trailer for it so far. There's not as much as I'd like to see in it to see what's going on, but it looks interesting. Moving to November, though, we've got a couple movies in November. The first one being The Flash. So we're back to DC again, and this one is back in the Snyderverse. And as much as I don't care for Ezra Miller as The Flash, this movie's got me excited just because they're going to be going cross dimension, and it is a multiverse movie, and you've got Michael Keaton back as a Batman. So that's got my interest peaked more than anything else, more so than Ezra Miller being in it. The only thing that would make that movie for me is if since Ezra Miller did a spot on the Flash TV show where they did their Crisis crossover, if you got Grant Gustin to do a cameo spot in this movie as a Flash crossing from another universe, or him passing by and speaking, or even showing that scene from Crisis in it, would still hype me, because then you connect the two.
I don't think there's no way around having to have that, honestly. I think that's a must. Michael Keaton being back, that's just magic. That says of the possibility of Batman Beyond. I'm fine with that. He's already signed to be in the Batgirl. It's going to be on HBO Max. So
yeah,
he's a lot more open to doing more Batman things. And he's finally. I seen an interview yesterday where he said why he finally didn't do Batman Forever, and it was just because of Schumacher. Right. He said he wasn't going to speak ill of the man, but because he's passed away, unfortunately. But he had a few meetings with him, and kept saying, "Well, I think the character goes this way. The character is this. The character is this. You should probably lean towards this." And he could tell very fast within a few meetings that not only was he going to completely do away with everything that Burton had laid the groundwork for, he was going campy, Batman, and that pretty much the only knowledge he had of Batman was the '66 show.
Adam West.
Yeah, because he told us that you do know this is how he became Batman, right? And he said Schumacher just looked at him like, what? He had no real indication of what his origin was.
Yeah.
So
I can
he
see
knew
that.
right then that was the way not to. He didn't want to be a part of it. So he's now willing to be a part of it, and I'm excited.
Cool. So the other movie we got in November is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. So Black Panther 2. I gotta be honest, my expectations of this one have dropped drastically after Chadwick Boseman's passing because I'm not sure what direction they're going in, and I'm not sure if I'm actually gonna care at all.
I think that one tanks. Honestly, the woman power is not. And I'm any female listeners, we got not knocking what you can do. I just don't think that Black Panther's little sister is gonna carry this movie.
If it was a different character, like if they just come up and said, "Hey, we're gonna put Okoye in the costume," I could have been behind her more so than Shuri. Shuri is like way too young and immature in this to me to fill out Black Panther.
It's her going off to summer camp or college, however you want to put it. But no one cares about her adventures abroad in America.
Yeah, I'm not too sold on it. So I'm not. Again, I don't think it's going to be terrible.
I think
But my
it's going to
expectations aren't up
introduce.
there.
It's going to be an essential movie you have to watch. It's going to introduce some characters, later down the pike that are going to be huge. Like Namor's rumored. They keep teetering back and forth about Doom possibly being a surprise villain. So it's going to be a key movie.
They're going to make it where you have to watch it, basically. But that's the
Yeah.
only reason I'm going to watch it, most likely.
I won't go to the theater to watch it. I promise you that will be I'll wait till it hits Disney Plus.
Well, since you brought up Disney Plus, our first December title is actually a Disney Plus. I think it's just a special. I don't think it's a full series, but it's the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. I think it's just a one episode sort of thing, probably an hour and a half. No set date for the month yet, but and we don't really have much information. But I gotta say, if James Gunn is doing it along with the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, it's probably going to be entertaining. A short little Christmas thing. I'm fine with that. Other than that, in December, we've got Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom coming out on December 16th, which I got to admit, after the first Aquaman, I thought maybe are they going to ruin him or are they going to do him justice? They did him a lot of justice in it, so I'm excited to see this one.
I was a big fan of the Aquaman movie. The only thing that worries me about this one is you're repeating the villain again. I mean, Black Manta's back, and I'm assuming he's basically just the main antagonist of this movie. I mean,
I haven't heard anybody different, so I don't know. This one
I mean,
seems a little.
Orm is back. I mean, I do know that, but I mean, is he going to be on the side of the angels or the demons this time? But I mean, even if he's a villain, this go around again, you just repeated the last movie.
Yeah, and I think this movie is going to be hopefully as good as the first one, and you got a little bit more adventure in this one. The last one had a lot of adventure because you went to different places, but this one's going to be more focused on finding a lost kingdom or whatever. But my worry with this movie is what's the box office going to look like, considering all the controversy around the female co-star. And not going to get into it, but she's got a ton of people who have petitions to get rid of her because of all her design. But you know what? She's just trying to do her job. Either you like her, or you don't, and you go watch the movie and support it, or you don't. Pick one or the other. And at this point, it's going to probably be 50-50 if it's going to make any kind of bank on it. The other movie we got in December, which is our last movie actually to cover, is Avatar 2, which I think is on the same weekend as Aquaman. It's on December 16th. That's the other problem with Aquaman bringing in any bank if you're going to compete with Avatar 2. Other than the Marvel movies, that's your highest grossing film series. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I will watch it, but I'm gonna wait for it to hit something later because DVD or streaming service, because James Cameron has been so pissy about Marvel movies beating his Avatar movies in the box office that I'm just not gonna go support it because I'm a Marvel fan first.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I did not go watch Avatar in theaters. Like, I was the one person that was like almost boycotting this movie. This movie was out 2 years before I watched it.
Yeah.
Because so many people just kept on about it. They just kept on about it. And I was like, I get bent. And Cameron is a dick. So I just refused to go watch it. And then finally, my ex-father all the time, he bought it on DVD. And he was like, here, watch this movie. If you don't like it, I'll buy whatever you want to put on the grill. I was like, I can get behind that. And I found myself actually captivated while watching this movie. It was very good, and I did feel like I maybe done myself a disservice by not going to the theater to watch it.
So I will say this: I watched it. I watched it in the theater and a second time when it was on when it came out on Blu-ray and DVD and stuff. And while I liked the film and it was captivating, it was not everything everybody else made it out to be. Man, the people, I had people telling me going to the theater telling me, "Man, I was immersed in that world so much, and when I left, I felt depressed looking at the real world."
Yeah, that's
heck
exactly what I was about to touch on, Monster. I mean,
I was like, come on.
reports everywhere where people were like almost wanting to commit suicide because of how wonderful and beautiful that world was, and then they come back into the real world and become depressed. Well, I get depressed every morning when I wake up and know I got to go to work. So, I mean, join the real world, buddy.
Yeah,
but
get over it.
I do feel like of anything we've touched on today, this will be the movie that will be worth going to an IMAX.
It might be, and I'll say, the last one was fantastic looking on the screen. I'm not going to knock that. It's just the reaction that people had to it. It turned me off to it a little bit. I was like, eh. But since we're running a little tighter on time, we'll jump over into the other announcements. So all of these are streaming series. I believe all these are actually Disney Plus streaming series I've got on here, but we don't have set dates for them yet. So I'll just kind of rattle them off, and then we can kind of throw our voice, our opinions and stuff out on them. But Marvel's got 4 streaming service shows hitting this year with Secret Invasion, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, and Moon Knight. Most of those sound intriguing. The She-Hulk, I'm kind of excited, hoping it's similar to the comic where they break the fourth wall and stuff. That was a good read back then. And Moon Knight, I'm hoping it's got more action and more of a almost Batman type quality to it.
It's rumored to be dropping possibly in March.
I hope so. I'm excited.
I saw that today. It was like it kind of leaked that there's a strong possibility it's dropping in March.
The only one of these I'm not super excited about is the Miss Marvel, and it's not that I don't like that character. I actually think that character is well done. It's for you gave us
a good supporting character.
That's my thing with the show. For the comics, you gave us a good diversity character and didn't say she was a diversity character. You said here's a character who happens to be diverse in a different way. So I was fine with that. In this case, you're making her the leading character, and everything I've seen of it so far is they're pushing the diversity more, and that's kind of like
you might draw in some teens. I'm not sure and that could be what they're going for, is the teen niche. That's all you're going to draw in there. I mean, if grown men are really wanting to watch this young girl, maybe you need to worry about what these grown men are doing. But
my other reaction too is you push Captain Marvel 3 back to next year. So why are you releasing that this year? She's not been introduced anywhere other than you're going to introduce her in here instead of on the movie, and then tell a story for her. I'm not sure that's going to be successful. Now, I get it. Moon Knight and She-Hulk haven't been in movies either, but they're leading characters altogether. This was a character that started out as a sidekick replacement, basically. So why
I think Moon Knight's going to be the sleeper of these, honestly. I'm a big Moon Knight fan, so I mean, I'm going to be a little biased here, but I think it's going to be the sleeper. No one's going to expect it to do, and that's going to be great.
I think it's going to be sleeper, and I think the Secret Invasion is the one that's going to be overhyped and not be as good as we want it to be, probably.
Ooh.
I think it's going to be good, but I think it's going to be everybody's going to expect so much from it that it's not going to be able to live up to those expectations.
I think She-Hulk does really well. It's going to be good. Miss Marvel's going to tank. That's going to be my tank out of that bunch. Moon Knight's a sleeper. And Secret Invasion, I think it's going to be really good. But like you say, I don't think it's going to meet the expectations.
I think it's going to be really good, but I think the expectations are at a 9, and it's going to be like a 7. It's just not going to make it there.
Speaking of expectations, what about the next category? Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yeah. Obi-Wan Kenobi drops this year, and Andor. Now, I got to tell you, I don't give a crap about Andor. I'll watch it, but I don't care anything about Cassian Andor and his character and what he did before Rogue One, because all he was good for was getting the plans around, to me. Now, it might be a great show in retrospect, and I might enjoy it, but right now I just don't have expectations. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's my series of the year. That's the one I want to see.
I literally got chill bumps just thinking about that, dude. I'm going to be honest. I'm excited for that. And we're getting Hayden Christensen back as Vader.
Yeah.
And what capacity are we going to get these? But they said there is going to be a lightsaber battle between the two. I'm pumped. I am pumped.
Yeah, that one's got my attention for the most part. But with that, we can move on into our nerd out section. And this is a segment of the show where we ask each other questions. Normally we don't have a chance to prepare, but my dumb self set my notes with my nerd out questions on them to Hassel this week, so he's had a chance to look at them and prepare. But typically we ask each other a question that relates to the topic we're on, and we just give honest answers to it. But as you hear these questions, if you want to provide your answer, feel free to do that in the comment section below. We'd love to hear what you think about them, or tell us how we're right or wrong about our answer. We would like to hear that as well. But so Hassel, I'm gonna let you go first since you already read mine, or you want me to go first since you already read mine?
I better know the answers.
Yeah, well, you know my answers, but you've had time to prepare your own too. So.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest, dude. This week I found it difficult to come up with something. I mean, typically, I'm never at a loss for words or opinions or any of this, but this week I had a tough time with the nerd out. So I'm just gonna say, out of everything, what are you most excited for in 2022? What is it that's got Monster going? This is what I'm looking forward to. I can't wait for this.
I'll have to break that answer down into two different things. Movie wise, it's going to be Doctor Strange. I really want to see what they do with that because I love the mystical stuff. But series wise, and probably even overtaking that's going to be the Obi-Wan series. Like, I really want to see what the story is for that, how that's going to go. And I love the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi from the first movies with Sir Alec Guinness, and then now you've got Ethan doing it, and he's just fantastic at it. So that's my main one. That's the one I want to see more than anything else. What about you?
Well, Obi-Wan, hands down, that's going to be what I'm looking for the most. And that's series overall, everything. Were I to choose a movie, movie wise, I'm probably going to say Halloween Ends. I'm praying it's not flop. I do worry about the direction they took in the last one a little bit, as much as I loved it. Where can you go from here?
Yeah.
One of those deals. So I'm just hoping it's not a deal where it's like they painted themselves into a corner. But I mean, it's overall everything. Obi-Wan will be, I don't give a damn what day of the week, as long as they could drop them son of a bitches at midnight. And I'll probably just be a sleepy son of a bitch at work the next day.
Usually they drop their shows at 2 or 3 a.m. on the day they release them. So
and fuckers.
You just get up an hour early before work.
That's not happening. That's not happening.
So for my nerd out question this week, and again, Hassel's already seen all these, and we've already talked about one of these pretty well in depth, but so I'll just pick, because I always have options, but I'll pick my second option. What do you think is going to be the biggest disappointment of this year?
I'm gonna say the Batman.
I have to agree that was my choice as well. I don't see how they're going to pull it off in the way that I've seen it. From what I've seen, it's not Batman to me. It's basically you took Superman and put him in Batman's outfit.
It seems to get just a little further away from the lore than what it should.
Yeah.
And that worries me. And I hate to bash it at all because I love the guy that plays Alfred. He's such a great character actor and everything he does.
Yeah.
And I can't really see him getting behind something that isn't there. However, and I'm trying to remain as open-minded as I can with the cat, what was his name, Robert Patton or whatever, that's playing Batman. Because, I mean, honestly, I was one of the dickheads that bashed Heath Ledger prior to watching Dark Knight. And afterwards, I was like, holy cow, I was so incredibly wrong. So I'm hoping he proves me wrong in the role of Bruce Wayne, Batman, but there's just been some comments made that really worry me when he's like modeling his Bruce Wayne after Kurt Cobain. I'm like,
Yeah, I worry about that one. And again, too, it's also that one that says, okay, well, what direction are we going in now? Because this is the one out of the year that's completely different than the rest of them. And that bothers me. And I'm like, oh, I'm lost at this point. I don't like being lost. That's why I have GPS, so I know where I'm going. But with that, I think that brings our episode to a close today. But before we leave, Hassel, tell everybody where they can find us on social media.
We have Twitter. You can find us at Nerdy MR Show. And now officially, as of today, breaking news, folks, we have an Instagram at Nerdy Manroom Show. Find us on there. We'll find you. We'll be one of those people. Add us. We'll add you. We'll try to keep you up to the news with during the week. Interact with us. We'd love to hear your thoughts and comments on things, and tell us where you feel we're wrong or right, or if you agree or just think we're dicks.
And remember, check out our sponsor, Zone Collectibles, for all your nerdy needs, from comics to toys to games and more. You can find them on the internet at thezonecollectibles@gmail.com, or on Facebook at The Zone Collectibles, or in their store in Tifton, Georgia. And again, be on the lookout for later this year. We're going to have some upcoming giveaways from them. We will announce them as we get closer. Still working out some details on that. But while we're on them, this arrived today.
Hey!
From the Zone Collectibles and our friend Kevin there. So I'm going to open this on film as much as I can hold it up in front of the camera. And unlike Hassel, I'm going to talk while I open it instead of the dead silence he left us with.
It's a cliffhanger, baby. It's a cliffhanger.
And it is one of the wonderful, what do we call these? The O Bowl, the original Crispy Bowl spiral slide design. And as Hassel showed us last week, it's a wonderful deal. You can set up all your stuff, especially if you don't want soggy cereal, or if you got. I also got looking at it, I was like, oh, that'd be great for chips and dips, and which is actually one of the pictures on here. And Hassel didn't bother to share that with us, but
I'm a tear straight out of the box guy. I mean, you people, I'm sorry. It comes straight out of the box. I was a kid that didn't even look at the back of the box at Christmas. It comes straight out of the box.
So we both want to thank, and also I think our guest star Big Rob last week got one of these as well. But we would definitely want to thank the Zone Collectibles for this. So again, check them out for any of your nerdy needs, whether it's trading cards, comics, games, or food accessories.
Yeah, Kev always goes above and beyond, and like you said, their motto for 2022 is unity through community. I'll get that right eventually. So, yeah.
And remember, if you enjoy this video or any of our other content, give us a like, subscribe, share, or comment. It always helps out the show. And join us next time. We're going to be talking about all things spooky. Till then, live nerdy and enjoy the New Year's movies.